Gina Gouger. So, my case. The day before, I started work here. See our little building over there? It's a workshop and it's about 92% recycled. Even the shingles and the foundation are recycled. So I start my plants over here, and in mid-March we move them out front to the hotbeds. I come in over here, I work all day, and then I go back for supper at night. So that morning, I woke up and my parents weren't around. I thought, no big deal, they go away sometimes. They were planning a trip to Sugar Grove. By nightfall, when they didn't come back, I was worried. I thought, gee, they must have gotten in a car accident or something. But what do? Call the hospitals? Not between here and Sugar Grove. And I knew the police wouldn't investigate unless they'd been missing for more than 24 hours. So I just stayed by the phone till midnight and went to bed. In the morning, when I got up to call the police, a guy comes walking up looking for motorcycle parts. In the back room where I thought the part might be, we found my father's body. I thought he had a stroke because he was face down in a pool of his own blood, and he obviously was dead. I felt his pulse. So I called the paramedics, who called the police, who told me they suspected foul play. About 2.5 hours after that, we found my mother's body. She had been killed and covered with rugs and pillows. Both my parents' throats had been slashed. About an hour and a half after that, the police had me arrested. Around midnight, I took a polygraph test, but the examiner said he couldn't pass me because of flat lines due to fatigue. Duh. It was midnight. I had been under questioning for 6 hours, and my parents had just been murdered. Around 1 a.m., they got 3 or 4 photographs of my parents with their heads pulled back so you could see down their throats. And all the while, the investigators yelling at me, "How could you do this to her? How could you hurt this woman? The woman who gave birth to you." They told me they didn't need my confession. They said they had everything they needed, the bloody fingerprints, the weapon, everything. They told me, "We can't lie to you or we lose our jobs." And they seemed so sincere about it. They started making me think I'd had a blackout and actually done it. I said, "Look, if I kill my parents, I want to know." So I said, "Okay, if I can construct the situation in my mind." I volunteered to give a vision statement, a hypothetical account of what I would have done if I had murdered my parents, to try and jog my memory. Well, I would have gotten up that morning and my mom would have been in the trailer. I would have gotten dressed, and I guess I would have had to have the knife in my pocket or something. I would have gone to my mom. I would have reached out to her. I never would have hurt her. They used that statement as a confession. And every time I tried to say anything other than how I would have done it, they would just holler at me and holler at me and holler at me. After I made that statement, I cried for about 3 minutes, and then I told them how I would have killed my father. The autopsy showed that everything I had said in those statements was wrong, but nothing was written down and nothing was recorded. At the trial, the police said that I had just volunteered to come down to the station with them and chatted with them for 12 hours, and then suddenly blurted out facts that only the killer would know. So then I was in prison, the X house, execution house. That was like something out of a movie. There were no guards. They would just open your cell door and let you run around. I guess they figured you were dead anyway, so what was the point? You could walk through this dimly lit set of corridors into the observation room, and from there into the execution room. That was where the phone was that all of us used. And the same phone that the governor would use to call in to stop an execution. The whole place was run by gangs, and there was ongoing warfare between the factions. The only gang open to whites was the Northsiders, which was basically Aryan Nation and skinheads. So I kept to myself a lot, killed a lot of time on my own. One way I killed time was I found a sewing needle embedded in one of the walls that someone must have smuggled in. So I taught myself embroidery. You take old clothes. My jeans made really good blue thread, and I was lucky. I'd kept my yellow jumpsuit that they'd put me in when I first got there, so that gave me yellow. And then I unraveled my sheets, and that gave me white. So you have 3 different colors just from unraveling cloth. I made myself a tote bag that I take to chow hall, and I put flowers on it. I embroidered bell bottoms on my prison blues. I even put a Calvin and Hobbes patch on my hat. They confiscated that one. About halfway through my trial, my time, a guy named Larry Marshall took on my case. He's at Northwestern. He works with students on wrongful convictions. My twin sister heard about him and drove literally through a blinding snowstorm to see if he would take my case on. He said yes. That was like the cavalry coming. When Larry started working, he found about this motorcycle gang called the Outlaws. Guys who want to gain entrance to this gang commit violent acts. They killed a bunch of people. They'd bombed the Hells Angels. They did a lot of stuff. And the federal government, the ATF, was running wiretaps on them. In 1995, they got a videotaped confession from one of the guys saying he killed my parents. But I wasn't released until 1996. And that whole year in between, they were fighting my appeal. They fought it all the way up to the Illinois State Supreme Court. The guys who killed my parents were just found guilty last year. But I've been adamant that they not get the death penalty. Some people think it's stupid, but killing them is not going to bring my parents back. No good's going to come of it.
All right, so that's it for that one. You guys want to come back in this way? We'll go ahead and take a quick question.